Welcome to Beyond Referrals, the podcast exploring how trust, growth, and client relationships in financial services are evolving in the digital and AI age. I'm your host, Emily Armstrong. Let's dive in. Hey there, welcome back to the show. This is episode 5. This is going to be a short and sweet episode. I'm going to give you one theme. It's going to be really important and hopefully some next steps and key takeaways for you to think about. So the title of today's episode is the most important marketing decision that you will make this year for your business. And my thesis and my point of view is that in order for an advisor or a firm to grow today, the most important thing that they need to do is choose a niche. Now, let's talk about what is a niche. So I get this question a lot of, I've heard that choosing a niche is important, that I should do this, but what's the difference between a niche and a core audience? We'll talk about that. And I'll give you my Wonderlab strategy framework on the magnetic niche principle. So before we dive into that, let's set the stage a bit. If you've listened to the previous episodes of this show, you already know some of this narrative that today you cannot outcompete on good advice, strong relationships, and referrals alone. You really do need to move out of that high volume generic approach into a specific expertise. And from there, you really create an opportunity to grow your practice outside of those legacy tactics. So why is niching the unlock? Well, when you don't have a niche, here's what happens. You try to grow your practice and you do that through your clients. You gather referrals from them, do your best to capture those referrals that they're giving you, and you don't have a strategic messaging framework to attract or to market to new clients because all you really have is your services as a financial advisor, which are undifferentiated from the advisors across the street or down the road or across the country doing the same thing that you are. So it's really, really hard to compete without a niche because you don't have a product. You don't have a unique thing that you've built. It's different than any other business. So when you do niche, you stop competing and you start attracting. And what's really exciting about that is when you have a specific person with a specific problem, you can actually do marketing from there. You have a message, you have a person that needs to hear your message, and so on and so forth. So I get this question a lot with advisors, and they say, how do I find my niche? Or I work with these 3 types of clients. I have 3 niches. And I want to talk a little bit about how to find your niche and then what to do if you do have a few different groups of clients you're working with, how to narrow that down to a single niche for your practice and some guidelines around that. So I created a framework, and this came from hundreds of hours of obsessing over this problem and reading a lot of different marketing, branding, and messaging frameworks for advisors to find their niche. It's called Your Magnetic Niche, and your niche exists at the intersection of 3 different areas. And if I had a way to draw this for you, I would draw 3 circles with a Venn diagram overlap. The first circle is your passion and expertise. So think about the things that you just obsess over. Like, what is your nerd zone? Where could you, if someone asked you at a dinner party about something in your work and you would just light up and go off about it, that's a key indicator that you're passionate about that thing. And then you have expertise because you are studying it, you are researching it. So for me, that was this gap in financial services for advisors with personal branding and actual marketing strategies that work for them. My husband makes fun of me because the books that I read at night are so nerdy and that problem. And he's like, I don't understand how you read those books. He's a counselor. So the books he's reading serve to his passion and expertise. So explore those ideas, those themes. Where do you just love learning? Where do you really get excited to pick up a book about this one topic? Where do you love working with your clients? What problems do you love solving with them? Those are some thought exercises to help you start to identify your passion and expertise. So that's number one. You have to have passion and expertise to have a niche. Number two is your relational connections. Who are the groups of people that you have natural credibility with and that you have, whether that's because you came from that background or because you find yourself in a circle here, or maybe you're not established there yet, but you want to be and you have a foot in the door there. That's an important piece as well, because the important truth about this business is it's still a relationship first business. So in order to create the credibility, like, you do need to have an understanding of the world of your clients. So I'll give you an example of a client that I'm working with right now. He came from a military background, so he works with people in that space and he has a lot of credibility there. That makes him he understands their language. He can pick up the phone and call anyone and they would meet with him because of who he is, because of the connections and relationships that he has. Another client example is I work with a client who works with Indian immigrants. And his story is that he was a first generation of immigrant parents coming over here, and he just knows a lot about that world. He really studied that space. And so that gives him credibility, empathy, and authority in that world, so on and so forth. So for the relational connections piece, you want to think about who are the groups of people that I have credibility in, that people know me, like me, and trust me in. That will help you narrow down your niche as well. Last and most importantly is the market need. So a lot of niche frameworks that I've studied are missing that critical piece of what's the pain point that they have. And this is what takes a niche from a good idea to a magnet. So I've heard this as well. Like, advisors, they say, okay, I work with tech employees, physicians, retirees, and business owners. So those are all very legitimate niches, and they're all very different. And so the other challenge with advisors is, okay, after I am committed to niching, I want to do these 4 niches, or I don't want to exclude anyone. And I always like to say diluted focus equals diluted results, especially if you're going to try to attract clients with marketing and with positioning and really deepen yourself into one niche. You really do have to choose one to market to. That doesn't mean that you'll never get referrals to other client groups that you work with, but it does mean if you really want to grow and scale your practice, it often does require the decision of which niche am I going to pursue, because it's very difficult today to be relevant to all 4 in this example, because your content needs to really speak to one person with one problem. And when you hone in, you get the results that you get are a lot stronger than if you try to pursue 2 to 3 to 4 niches. I've seen it create issues in the past. Like, if someone wants to pursue 2 niches, eventually they do get to that fork in the road of, I got to pursue one or the other. It just complicates things like operations, marketing funnels, staffing decisions, etc. So I always like to encourage advisors, there's no wrong answer. I think the intimidation part about choosing a niche is advisors are scared to exclude. They aren't sure. They don't want to pick the wrong one. I get that a lot. And they're afraid of what happens if they intentionally, exclude people groups that they love working with. And I feel that pain. I get it. But eventually you will get to the decision where you do need to narrow down, because it really streamlines everything. It's hard to explain what happens when you really choose to dive it all in on one niche, but here is what happens. You start to you start to think, I wish I made this decision sooner, because everything really does start working a lot better in terms of your client attraction strategy, your referral strategy, your marketing, your focus, everything improves. So when I'm talking about this, and this is where I'll leave this episode and we'll wrap it up. A lot of people are concerned with the cost of niching. Who am I going to lose? What are my current clients going to think? What are these opportunities going to think, and these clients who are getting referred to me, but they're not in my niche? What am I going to do? And those are all things to think through. That's a cost question. But I always like to flip it and say, what's the cost of not niching? You keep doing business as usual, taking all the clients that are coming in your door, and eventually you come to this decision at some point in the future. Again, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 years, but it will come back. And so the cost to not niching, I would argue, is higher. And it's more than just top of funnel opportunities. It trickles down to your staff. It's your energy, it's your focus, it's your time. You're not really maximizing and going deeper. So this was meant to be a short and sweet episode on niching and give you some directions to think about niching. And if this is a conversation that you want to explore further or you want some help around, I have tons of resources about it. Just reach out to hello@wonderlabstrategy.com for the magnetic niche method. I'm happy to give that to you for free. And when you get this right, just know that it is the most important marketing decision that you could ever make. And I'm excited to be able to give you this guidance today. And I hope you found this enjoyable. Thanks for listening. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show. If this conversation resonated with you or you learned something new, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. And do me a favor, like and subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Comment on anything that you want to see or hear more of in the future as well. You can also stay connected by subscribing to the Wonder Weekly newsletter and connect with me, Emily, on LinkedIn at Emily Armstrong or Instagram, Emily Armstrong 2.0 for more insights on building modern client service firms. Until next time, keep on adapting, modernizing, and growing beyond referrals.